Started streaming, let's see if it's going. I'm just gonna sing until I'm sure that we are running. How is everyone doing? Let's change the lighting so it looks all sexy. Oh, it's purple, now it's turquoise, now it's red, 'cause it's red alert time. Green for green, oh god, that means it's Borg. Here we are, Borg. Oh my god, oh, purple. Now it's white, 'cause that's boring. Purple, here it is. I'm just singing till I see my face. Oh my gosh, there it is. Sorry, I was just I was singing. I realized that I was trying to see if my face would pop up on the stream. Looks like we're up and running. So hope everyone enjoys that. And yes, I have a new costume today. Ooh, come on, focus. Uh-oh. I think my computer just freaked out. There we go. Yep, look at it. It's glorious. I finally got it in the mail. The only thing I don't love is this communicator is kind of crappy. But I got a brand new Star Trek uniform. So yeah. I'll be using this in some videos coming up. So I hope everyone is doing good. Hello, Anna. Hello, Lucy. Hello, Joe. Hello, Feeny, Seal, Joshua. How is everyone doing this evening? How's everything looking sound, by the way? I know it's a red. I know it's red. I know. It's the only one that was available, unfortunately. I have a blue one too, but it's like a onesie, like pajama thing, rather than like the red of the. Let me just close that up. Rather than like the red. So I have a blue and a red one. I guess I just need like a yellow one now. So I think that's the only one. I think that's the only one that I'm missing. But thank you, everybody. How is everyone doing this evening? I know it does look kind of sexy, doesn't it? Like, surprisingly, I'm like, this actually looks kind of snazzy on me. But how's everyone going tonight? Hey, Miguel. Hey, Greg. Hey, Ed. Yeah, you want green? We got green. We can make it green. That's Borgified. If it was anything. I ordered this from I think eBay. Yeah, eBay. I've gotten most of my uniforms from eBay. It actually seems like a pretty solid place to get most of your uniforms if you're looking at that sort of stuff. And it also, I don't have them on right now, but it actually came with pips, so I can actually put on a different amount of pips, so I can change my rank at different points. It doesn't all have to be one rank, unlike my other costumes, which are all, I only have one rank or the other, so I can actually change my pips, which is good. So yeah, it's kind of nice. So yeah, how is everybody doing today? What's up and what does everyone want to talk about? I kind of put in the description we can talk Lower Decks. We don't have to talk Lower Decks. I'm kind of open to talking about everything. But Lower Decks, just go to the snazzy. Everyone's talking about it. So we can talk about that if that's what everyone wants to go on about and rant about. But I'm here for all of you to entertain you. So I can talk about whatever anyone wishes to talk about today. Oh no, Lucy, I'm sorry it's 1 a.m. where you are. Apologies. Again, time zones suck. And unfortunately, it just because of how life works out, I can't really always do earlier I know a lot of people over in the UK would prefer if I did earlier, but unfortunately it's not what I'm able to do all the time. I'm going to switch this over here for some reason. I don't know why it's bothering me over there. So, yeah, hanging by threads as usual. Yep, I know that feeling. Is that true, Lucy? There is an AMC show led by a trans woman? That is cool. AMC trans woman. That's good to know. No, Vicious Liberal. I do not have any information on the release date of Discovery, unfortunately. If I heard anything about that, I would let you know. My assumption would be, hopefully, there is a Star Trek Discovery panel at Comic-Con at home this year, so that's in I think 2 weeks. So my assumption would be we'll probably get some information on it there. At the very least, they'll probably talk about it there. But we'll see. No, this was I bought this myself. The one nice thing about being a YouTuber who has a Patreon is that I do have a business account. I have a credit card business account, so I can at least, like, you know, I still have to pay for things, but I can at least kind of write this off for a little bit for taxes and things. So, pro tip: if you do YouTube and you make even a little bit of money off of it, write off stuff for taxes. All the rich people do it. Might as well do it myself. It's might as well do it myself. Might as well take advantage of what I can. In this economy, unfortunately. Christy, you thought the preview for Lower Decks is boring. I actually really liked the preview. I mean, I did my own video on it, so you can see that. But I actually am very excited for Lower Decks. I think it'll be a fun show. I think it'll be able to do a little bit more fun stuff with the concept than with Star Trek, because it's animated, which I think is kind of fun. I mean, you look at something like Star Trek the Animated Series, and while that show definitely has its problems, one of the things I like about Star Trek the Animated Series, the one back in the 70s, is that they were able to do crazier stuff, like having a cat lady on the bridge, or a guy with 3 arms on the bridge, or like crazy alien designs. And as much as people have problems with Rick and Morty, and I do too, I like that they have recurring character arcs, strong character themes, and actually do like crazy stuff with their sci-fi. So I think putting that in the Star Trek world, I think will be kind of fun, in my opinion. But I understand also that it's not going to be for everybody. But that's sort of my thoughts on it, and why I'm kind of excited for it. And thank you very much, Edward. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your super chat. The red shirt is worrying, but thankfully it's a TNG uniform that gave me a near heart attack. I don't own a red TOS shirt. I have a blue and I have a yellow one, but I do not have a red, which is probably for the best. But yeah. And yeah, Chris, I agree. I didn't love the animation style. I don't love the animation style of like Rick and Morty, or even like, I'm a big fan of She-Ra. I like that show, but I don't love that animation. It just feels kind of standard to me. So it's all kind of in that vein. And so I didn't love the animation style, but I don't hate it either. So we'll kind of see what'll eventually come out of it. And let's see, what else is everyone else want to talk about? Oh, my computer is freaking out today, so apologies if this is freezing. I don't know if it's freezing for you, if it's just freezing for me. I'm exporting some videos in the background right now, so some exporting stuff may cause some jitteriness on my end, so apologies on that. The communicator might be lower. It's actually just where it came when I opened up the packaging. I actually haven't moved this communicator. That's just where it came out. Yeah, and I think we'll get good stories. Again, if you take a look at like Rick and Morty, where I don't love Rick and Morty's characters all that much, but if we're looking at that as a model, the one thing I will say about Rick and Morty is it actually does have continuity for its characters. And it does actually try and tell stories with the characters and actually have arcs for the characters. So whether or not you like it, at the very least, there's a proven point of like they will try to tell overarching stories with it, as opposed to like little one-offs, which I think will be kind of fun. And seeing actual character development instead of like crazy weird stuff. So I kind of agree. That's kind of what I'm looking at. And I kind of think it'll be better. I mean, this is something I was talking in my Discord with some of my Patreons the other day. Sorry to plug there. But someone posted in my Discord that they thought that Lower Decks looks very MacFarlane, like Seth MacFarlane comedy-esque, like his Family Guy stuff. And Seth MacFarlane also does the... and how they thought that this show kind of felt more MacFarlane than even MacFarlane's Orville does. And I don't think they were saying that like in anger or anything, or even disparagingly, but I just had to somewhat disagree a little bit with that, because I feel like Lower Decks... I feel like when you look at the Orville, and not even really the problem, it's not even like a thing on quality, it's just sort of like Seth MacFarlane's style and what you appreciate, what you don't. But a lot of like Orville's comedy, when it is comedic, is very much like sitcom-y jokes grafted onto a sci-fi situation. Like, for example, like one of the major recurring jokes of that like first season and even into season 2 was like the fact that the captain, Seth MacFarlane's character, was like dealing with his ex, and like his ex was the second in command of the ship. And so it was just sort of like, and then there's like dating questions and, a lot of these situations that were comedic on the show felt like they were normal sitcom like tropes grafted onto sci-fi situations, grafted onto Star Trek situations. So, and again, that's not a statement on quality. That's not disparaging of it. That's just saying what I sort of saw as the style of the show. And there were sci-fi concepts in that show, but the sci-fi concepts almost seemed divorced from where the comedy was drawing from. Whereas if you look at like Rick and Morty, and from what I saw in the trailer of Lower Decks, a lot of that comedy seems to come out of the Star Trek situation, out of the sci-fi-ness, like the holodeck. There's that joke in the trailer where it was like the holodeck cleaning. I mean, that makes sense. That's like something that makes sense, that there would be like holodeck waste. But we don't really ever think about that because Star Trek never did. But it's clearly something there. Same thing with the like joke of the phaser at the end. It's like, oh, it was set to, it was set to stun. It was definitely set to stun. That's a joke that you could only tell in Star Trek, not a joke that you could tell on any sitcom. And so I think, again, this is just me looking at what Rick and Morty is and what Lower Decks is. The comedy feels like it's going to come more out of the actual sci-fi situation rather than sort of sitcom-y tropes grafted onto a sci-fi situation. And again, neither of those are better or inherently worse, and it also always comes down to execution over, type. I mean, I think anything can be executed badly or poorly, or well or poorly, but I think they are two distinct styles that are very different than anything. So I think that's my sort of take on that. And yeah, some people were pointing out, sorry, I missed some of the chat. I did like Orville. And again, I like Orville too. Any word on when Orville's coming back? From what I heard, they were filming season 3 of the Orville when the pandemic hit. And so they didn't get a chance to finish it. And so it's sort of like waiting for the pandemic to end for when the Orville can come back. Unlike Discovery, which at the very least had finished filming by the time the pandemic hit. And then the problems, delays were caused by post-production stuff, which is a little bit more manageable than actual production problems caused by the pandemic. So I think we'll probably see Discovery season 3 before we see the Orville. And who knows when the Orville will come back, because who knows when things will be back to normal, especially in the United States. So we'll sort of see where everything goes from there. Enforcer 6K, sorry I missed your super chat. Apologies. I'm a little saddened, and thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate that. I'm a little saddened at people screaming that Lower Decks is, quote, not Star Trek. What is Star Trek then? A completely sterile and humorless environment where every joke is committee approved? Yes and no. I mean... And I'm going to get to the next. I just see 2 more super chats. So I'll just say thank you. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Edward, for your super chats. I really, really appreciate that. You're both wonderful. And I will get to those super chats in a second, but I at least wanted to acknowledge them before they got too far away from me. But I wanted to answer also Enforcer's question here. Yeah, the unfortunate thing with a lot of the hate, I mean, if you look at Star Trek Lower Decks, you type it in right now, you're going to go online, you're going to see a lot of hate. And I've addressed this before, but... for a lot of people, especially the biggest voices that are spewing toxicity, which unfortunately are also sometimes the biggest voices in Trekdom, there's 2 things happening. One, they have preconceived notions that they're not going to like it. They didn't like Discovery, they didn't like Picard, and so when they look at Lower Decks, they sort of have a preconception that they're going to hate it. And so they don't look at it for what it is, but they look at it for what it represents. They look at it in like the context of their bubble, which isn't necessarily wrong. You're allowed to come in with some context of it, but I think they come with their own preconceived notions on it. And so they're not really good. They're automatically going to hate it. I don't think, honestly, at this point, I really do not think there is anything that this current team on Star Trek, Alex Kurtzman, Kristen Beyer, all those people, I really don't think there's anything you can do to win those people over. You might be able to win some, and I'm not saying it's a complete wash, but I just think that those people have already preconceived notions, and then also the other thing too is their preconceived notions are enforced by the YouTube algorithm and their audiences. So to change their opinions on stuff, it's a little bit harder for them. Both because that's what their audience wants, and that's because that's where they make their money, and that's where they make their bread and butter, and that's how their audience is built, on being toxic, horrible, spewing vile at whatever show comes out. And so there's nothing they can really do. Nothing that anyone can really undo from Star Trek. And it's just kind of unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. Yeah, and I think also too, as you were hitting upon in your super chat there, Enforcer, people just have preconceived notions of what Star Trek's supposed to be. I mean, there's a wonderful quote from Leonard Nimoy where he basically states, like, try and see where Star Trek wants to take you. And you know what? Is modern Star Trek my favorite Star Trek? No. I mean, I'm rewatching Deep Space Nine right now. I'm like, this is my favorite Star Trek. I really enjoy what Deep Space Nine is. Is Discovery or Picard my favorite Star Treks? No. But I want to give them the chance and opportunity to grow on me, to share with me what these people want to say. I mean, it's all fiction. It's all made up. And yes, it's my favorite franchise, and I want to see my favorite franchise grow and do new things. But you know, at the end of the day, it's just a show with people creating it and trying to put their passions and their thoughts into things. And art is going to be flawed, and I just want to see. I'm here to see what it's going to be. And I think that that's kind of fun with me. And I want to take things as they are and take things as they come to me. And, you know, I generally try to be a positive person here. So, you know, more than likely I'm always going to, no matter what the Star Trek thing is, and I'll willingly admit this, I'll probably have a positive spin on whatever the latest Star Trek thing is. That's just who I am. It's what I like to do. And so am I a bit biased in the positive direction? Sure. Totally willing to admit that. But I also... You know, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to give you my opinions on something. And I'll tell you when I dislike something. I'll always try and couch it in positive terms or at the very least constructive terms, which, again, this is something I don't think that the more toxic side of YouTube does. I don't think they couch things in positive terms at all. Or I guess not even positive. I guess constructive. They don't try and be constructive. It's like if I hate an episode of Discovery or Picard, and I have done that, I at least try to say, like, here's where I think it went wrong. Here's where I think it could grow. Here's where I think it could learn. Here's where I think it could do better in the future. To try to aim to be constructive. And so I think that's what criticism should be, you know? All art is flawed. All art is making mistakes. No piece of work is ever going to be flawless. And so it's all about taking the art as it is, taking it what it's trying to say, and asking yourself, how could it have said what it was trying to say better? Or what did I get out of it that was worthwhile? Because sometimes the intention isn't necessarily what the actual piece is, but there's still something worthwhile there. So yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, I think that's all my thoughts on that. So thoughts on Final Space? Final Space is excellent. If you are looking for a really good sci-fi show, sort of comedic show with an overarching story, I actually would go with Final Space. I loved Final Space. That's a show I should talk about more. But Final Space is another show with actually a much stronger overarching plot than Rick and Morty, but still has a lot of sci-fi stuff. And actually, it's very emotional. There's a few episodes of Final Space that actually like hit me hard and made me cry a couple times. So if you're looking for a comedic sci-fi animated show, that's to a degree, it's a bit more serialized, but to a degree in the vein of Futurama, I would very much recommend Final Space. Final Space feels like, what if Rick and Morty and Futurama had a love child? I think that's kind of what the best. I think that I always forget Final Space because it never really gets talked about unless it's actually on. But I honestly think Final Space is an unappreciated gem. I would very much say you should check out Final Space. Also, Lucy mentioned Disenchanted. I like Disenchanted. It feels very Futurama-y. The problem with Disenchanted is it feels a little bit out of touch. It feels very Simpsons-y. When I see Simpsons-y, I think Simpsons-y nowadays, which feels kind of tropey and rote and a little bit out of touch with the trends of where animation has gone over the past few years, and not really doing anything new. The times where it does try to do some new things on Disenchanted, I think, is where it actually shines. But I think it just relies a little bit too much on the Simpsons archetypes, like the drunken elf character and drunken main character. It kind of relies on those archetypes a little bit too much and hasn't really evolved its style from where the Simpsons was. Or, I mean, even Futurama, I think, feels more still feels fresher today than Disenchanted really kind of does now, which is kind of sad and surprising. But yeah, I don't hate Disenchanted. I think it's a good, solid show. I enjoy it. I've seen every episode. I liked it, but I don't exactly think it's anything. It's not top tier for me, but it's definitely a solid show, I think. It's one of those like shows that's like I'm never gonna be like, oh yeah, Disenchanted, I'm so excited, but it's like I'll put it on the background when I'm doing stuff, watching stuff. I'm like, oh, I'll sit down and watch an episode if I'm kind of bored or something. But it's not something I'm gonna like go and seek out super excitedly, like I would like Final Space, for example. All right, I wanted to quick get these other two super chats, then I'm going to catch up with the chat, and I just see someone else gave a $10 super chat, and I'll thank you for that in just a second after I look at these. Joe Byrne asked in his super chat, and thank you again for the super chat. People keep saying, look at that ramen split on the shuttle dash, and I'm come on, let's totally gawk. That's totally gawk. Yes, that was gawk. That would be kind of great. That is kind of perfect. You gotta love gawk. Gawk. Kind of looks like ramen. That's perfect. Star Trek is in the same state as Teen Titans. What is being made goes too far at both extremes, comedic parody and dark with gratuitous violence. Yeah, I can kind of see your point with that. I kind of feel like Star Trek Discovery now, maybe not in its first season, but in like the second season and what looks like season 3 will be, and even Strange New Worlds will kind of be an interesting middle ground. But I could definitely see like how for a lot of people Picard feels darker and Lower Decks feels too happy, kind of like Teen Titans Go versus what Titans is, the show on DC Universe. But I think, to be honest with you, I actually like Teen Titans Go. I actually think it's a funny show, especially their the movies they've done. They've done 2 Teen Titans Go movies, and I've actually kind of enjoyed both of them quite heavily. But yeah, I could totally see people being frustrated with what Teen Titans Go is, because no one really asked for that type of show. But I think it's solid for what it is. Titans, though, DC Universe, poof, that show is... Whew, yeah. The less said about Titans on DC Universe, the better, because I am just, there's things in there I like, but I am not a fan of the DC Universe Titans. If you want a good DC Universe show, Doom Patrol, though I guess now it's on HBO Max, which is weird, but the current season of Doom Patrol is great, and season 1 of Doom Patrol was stellar. I think season 1 of Doom Patrol has been better so far than what season 2 has been, but season 2 has been pretty solid as well, and I would very much recommend it. Yeah, I'm sorry if this camera keeps autofocusing. It's a new camera, so apologies if it's kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm trying to figure out why it's doing that, but what are you gonna do? So apologies if the camera's a little bit weird. I'm still funking around with it a little bit, so we'll sort of see how it works. And I'll get it set up. I'm also planning on trying to I just thought of like, I think I'm going to try and do a new setup. I'm going to flip this desk around and set it, like take this guy and put it on the wall back here. And then flip this table around so that I can do my live streams with that behind and actually make filming a little bit easier too. So instead of setting up a bunch of lights and stuff every single time I want to do video, which kind of, because I am tired constantly, I sometimes don't get I shoot my videos way in advance, which sometimes lets me get behind in some of the more prescient conversations. But if I do that and I can just sit down and shoot a video, it'll allow me to make my videos a little bit quicker and have a little bit more prescient viewpoints with some of my videos. But Cast the Lass in the latest super chat asks, this message has nothing to do with the super chat, but I'm really hyped for this comedic take on Trek. It's okay to try different things. 100% agree with you, and thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that so much, Cast the Lass. But yeah, I am super hyped on a comedic take on Trek 2. I honestly think it's about time. I think Star Trek was rife for comedy. And, you know, Star Trek has always had comedy. I mean, going all the way back to, I think the first comedic episode of Star Trek was Shore Leave, but you also had Trouble with Tribbles as well. Those are original series episodes that were inherently comedic. So Star Trek has always had comedy. Trials and Tribulations was also comedic. A Fistful of Datas, while not a good episode, was also an attempt to be comedic. So Star Trek has never shied away from comedy, and I think the diversity of what Star Trek can be is part of the message of Star Trek and part of its charm. So I am very much excited for Lower Decks. Also, I just saw another super chat from Daniel. Thank you very much, Daniel. Good Treks are those that expand the universe, and I agree. And I think Lower Decks is probably going to expand the universe as well. I think it'll do a solid job. And I mean, like I was talking about this in my react to it. I think one of the weirdest strengths of this show that I don't think people are talking about enough is the fact that it's going to be an echo of The Next Generation, and sort of continuing that era of Star Trek that most of us, I think, are probably the biggest fans of. I think most Star Trek fans, sorry, my hair is all screwed up and I'm trying to fix it here. I think most Star Trek fans are biggest fans of the Next Generation era. That's not saying you have to be, but I think a lot of people are. And Lower Decks is going to continue that. I mean, Picard, we all kind of hoped Picard would be that. But I kind of like Picard doing its own thing and not really kind of evoking the Next Generation era, but kind of evoking a new era for Trek in that world. The 25th century, or close to the 25th century, as it were. So yeah, I think it'll be kind of fun. Right. 69 people watching. Every time I get 69 people watching or 69 likes or anything, someone always comments on it, which, I always appreciate that. Thank you very much. You are always wonderful for always noting the 69. Let's see. Was it season 2 or season 3 of Enterprise that grew its beard? Says Owen. I don't know. I think everyone points to season 3. There's parts of season 2 that I like. I'm in the middle of my rewatch of season 2. I think season 2 still was kind of rough. But definitely season 3 is where Enterprise grew its beard. I mean, I think most Star Trek shows grow their beard in season 3. I think Star Trek the original series was great seasons 1 and 2. Kind of found its beard like midway through season 1 and then lost it in season 3. Next Generation definitely found its beard in season 3. It's arguable where Deep Space Nine found its beard. I would definitely say by season 3 it was solid, but I think like where it got really, really good is in season 4. But I don't think Deep Space Nine was bad really at any point. Season 1 was still a bit rough. Season 2 got better. Season 3 was definitely solid, and then season 4 it sang, and just sang all the way through to the end. Voyager got better as it went along. I don't know exactly where it grew its beard, but Voyager was solid for the most part. And then Enterprise, I definitely think grew its beard in 3. So, yeah, I think that's where we're at. Hey, Pedro, how are you? How are you doing? Have I watched Dark? And Anna asks. I have not watched Dark. And thank you, Pedro. I appreciate that. I look in this red shirt. I have not watched Dark. There's probably another show that I'm going to be watching next. I'm trying to think. I'm debating between watching The Leftovers or Dark next, because I haven't seen either of those shows and I really want to. So we'll sort of see what shows I'm going to get into after that. Someone was asking about Solar Opposites. I like Solar Opposites. Weirdly, the part of Solar Opposites that I liked the most was actually had nothing to do with the main characters, is that wall storyline that they had going on. I thought the wall storyline was excellent. I was actually super invested in that. And then the other stuff, the other misadventures of the main characters, I liked, but it felt very it felt like Rick and Morty light. Which, whatever. It is what it is. If one of David asks, if one of Sony's studios signed a deal to make a Star Trek game, which would you prefer to make it? Ooh, good question. That's a very good question. Which of Sony's studios? Well, it kind of depends on what I would want. I mean, I feel like the type of Star Trek game that I would want would be one of two things. It would either be, I would want it to be a super narrative-driven experience, like kind of a Naughty Dog-esque thing, though not exactly Naughty Dog. I probably wouldn't want Naughty Dog to do a Star Trek game, but like kind of that approach where it's like very like taking me through a narrative and there's some gameplay on top of it. Or kind of alternatively, kind of a Mass Effect approach, which would be like kind of a BioWare, like you could kind of pick your own story sort of thing. I think I would probably want to go with the Mass Effect approach, where it's sort of very open in terms of you get some choices and things. There's a lot of like exploration you get to do, but it is still kind of narrative focused. Like there is a story that it's trying to tell me. It's not just like Star Trek Online. Well, even Star Trek Online has its kind of its own choices, but a much more tighter narrative and gameplay than Star Trek Online does, which is a bit more exploding out. So I'm trying to think what studio could best do that. Not entirely sure. I'd have to think. I'd have to look at the studios. I guess Insomniac does a solid job of that. Their Marvel Marvel Spider-Man was really solid. That would definitely be fun. But I don't know if that necessarily would apply well to Star Trek. I'd have to take a look at their list of studios to really think about that. I mean, if I had to pick anyone, I would think like BioWare 10 years ago would be a perfect studio to do it, but that's about 10 years ago. Not today. BioWare today, nah. Actually, CD Projekt Red, I think would do a great. That's not a Sony studio, But I think CD Projekt Red would do an excellent Star Trek game. Would probably be my choice. I think that they would probably do a really, really, really great job of a Star Trek game. Let's see. Oh, and thank you again, Edward. I appreciate that, your super chat. Ever drank so much rum and ale you woke up on a shuttlecraft regretting your life choices? I've never really gotten... I mean, I get drunk. I've been drunk before, most definitely. But I've never blacked out from being drunk, weirdly enough. I don't know what that says about me. I always sober up pretty quickly. I never... Sometimes I get hungover. There's been like 1 or 2 times that's happened. But I've never been so drunk that I blacked out, and 99% of the times that I've been drunk, I'm usually sober by the end of the night. Like, alcohol does not stay in my system for very long for whatever reason. So usually by the time I go to bed after I get drunk, I'm generally pretty sober. Don't know why. It's just how my metabolism works. My metabolism is really, really quick. So there you go. Don't you think it's time for Star Trek Bones? Bones? I don't know if I would really want a show centered around Bones, necessarily, just because I think we could have new characters and new situations. I wouldn't mind a medical show. That being said, I do think Bones was the character that was the most shafted of all the main characters. I mean, there are more characters that got less screen time, but of terms of like, of the big 3, Bones was a character that I really would have liked to see more of, unfortunately. I think the only times he really ever got a chance to shine on his own was like in Star Trek 5. And then Star Trek 4, he got a little bit with like the hospital scenes in The Voyage Home. But I think he only got like a scene, like a character development scene for him in Star Trek 5, which is not the best movie to get that, unfortunately. So yeah, Bones is a character that I would have liked to see a little bit more of, but you never really got all that much of, which is kind of sad because he's a character who deserved more. I think most definitely. Would have liked to see like stuff. I know they had plans to like have episodes with him and his daughter and things like that in the original series. So I think it would have been nice to see that sort of thing. But unfortunately, what are you gonna do? Can't do it all. Let's see. Ooh, Telltale. Well, Telltale's gone, unfortunately, Tom. No more Telltale. Well, I mean, I guess Telltale still kind of exists, but they're technically a brand new studio, and it's just Telltale in name only. So we'll sort of see what they eventually end up doing. How did you rank all the Star Trek shows? I will hold on to that one, Gracie, because I will probably do a video on that at some point and piss everybody off when I make that video. So I'll save that opinion for an actual video rather than a live stream. There's been a few novels with Bones. None's like immediately coming to mind. I know there was like a trilogy for the 50th anniversary. I'm trying to remember the name of them. There was a 50th anniversary Star Trek: The Original Series trilogy that kind of focused on Una and everything, like number 1. But I remember the second book had a decent amount of Bones stuff. Like he got to actually do some stuff with his daughter. And I remember really liking that book quite a bit. But I can't remember the name of the trilogy. It's a 3-book trilogy that came out in honor of Star Trek's 50th anniversary. The audiobooks are out there. That's how I listened to them. And I just can't. I think the first book is Purgatory's Key. I think the first book is called Purgatory's Key. But I can't remember what the second one was, and the second one was the one that focused on Bones. But anyways, that trilogy is really great, and I would highly recommend it. If you haven't read it, I would very much recommend seeking it out. Carl Urban as Bones, asks Ace. I think Carl Urban did a great job. I mean, it's Carl Urban. When has Carl Urban not been excellent? So Carl Urban does a fantastic job, I think, in everything. He did a fantastic Bones. He was the one, unlike Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine, who I think both did great jobs. But I think Carl Urban most evoked his original actor. I think he most evoked DeForest Kelley. And I think he just nailed it. But again, as Bones tends not to get, he did not get enough time to shine. I think sort of the best moments for Bones were in Star Trek Beyond. I think he got a lot of really good stuff to do in Star Trek Beyond. So Yeah, Lucy, Carl Urban was not good as Dredd. I could totally understand your feelings on that. I think Dredd is great, but I totally understand your feelings that he was not good as Dredd because the point of Dredd, and especially in that movie, Dredd is kind of a non-entity, and that's intentional in a lot of respects. So I think like that's part of the point. So I could totally understand, like, was Dredd Carl Urban's tour de force of acting? No, probably not. But I think that's part of the point, and I actually think that Dredd is a fantastic movie. And I don't hate. I think Carl Urban does a great job in it, but it's not exactly his most. It's not stretching him and his acting muscle the most. I would definitely agree. But I don't think that's bad, and I don't think that's. I don't think it's to the detriment of the movie. In fact, I think it's kind of to the movie's benefit. And the fact that he does so well with, like, having his face blocked for 90% of the movie, for 90%, 100% of the movie, that still shows that, like, strong acting. So, Edward Bedore, I would be the John Shepard of Star Trek captains. That is Shepard from Stargate, not Mass Effect. What about you? I would love that too. I've been rewatching some Stargate recently and really been missing missing that show. That's a franchise, like, if I probably could bring, I mean, Star Trek is back right now. Star Wars is still going strong, quote unquote. So if I could bring back any franchise that is dead right now or, like, stalled, I would probably pick Stargate. And I miss Stargate quite a bit. And Atlantis was definitely my favorite Stargate show of all of them. And to be fair, I also liked Universe. Heck, I even liked Stargate Infinity. Stargate Infinity. If anyone even remembers that show. I doubt very few people remember Stargate Infinity, but that was a great show. So I would very much recommend that. Someone said I want to say Lilt Lass. So hopefully I'm saying your name right. I saw that you just said that this is your first time watching a live stream. Well, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Welcome to the live streams. Because it's literally the middle of the night for me every time you've done them. So I was wanting to do live streams earlier. Sadly, no. I should try. I always do them on Wednesdays just because that's the best day for me. I could probably try to do them earlier in the day, and I'll do my best to. But just because of the way my schedule works out, I can't always do earlier. So apologies on that, and I do apologize that I can't be as accommodating as I would like to be. But unfortunately, just life and schedule just kind of has it be that way. So welcome so much to the live stream if you're still in the chat. And I'm really glad to see you here. And I will try to do my best to every once in a while try and do some earlier. But as a regular thing, I probably can't. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of just how the cookie crumbles and how life crumbles at the moment. Maybe if I can do this full time at some point, I definitely can. We'll see about that. So yeah. Also, I want to say thank you to everybody for hanging out with me on this live stream. It's been kind of an anxious week or so, so I appreciate it. You know, I always, whenever I come into a live stream, it always makes me feel better to hang out with all of you. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for hanging out. Oh, hey, Trek on the Tube. Nice to see you here. It's good to see you. Oh, I'm off to bed. I guess I missed you as you came in, but it's good to see you, Trek on the Tube. Sorry if I missed seeing you. So, at Jessie Gender, where do you get your uniforms? I'd love to find a TOS red shirt to complete an old joke with my friends. All of the uniforms that I've been finding lately have been from eBay. I've been actually finding decent prices on eBay. I think this was only like $30. The TOS ones, the like really nice like disco era TOS ones that I was been wearing in recent live streams and is the thumbnail for this video. That one was only I think like $35-$40 on online. There are some that are more expensive. I think Enterprise uniform is like $100. Nemesis one is $100, like a Nemesis era, later DS9 era one. Are $100, but for like this TNG uniform and the disco era ones, I think they're not that expensive. You can get them pretty cheaply. So sort of depends on what your preferences are. But eBay definitely definitely a solid place to look for some uniforms there. Yeah, the Wrath of Khan outfit's great. I personally don't like the Wrath of Khan ones. I mean, I appreciate them for what they are. They're a bit too military for me. At least these, like, yes, these are military-esque, but they feel a little bit like pajama jumpsuity for me. And that's just my taste. I can definitely appreciate why a lot of people like the Wrath of Khan uniforms. For me, I have not one, but I have like a hoodie that looks like that in my closet over there. So I have one, and I appreciate it. But it does feel a little bit too on the military side for my taste. But that's, again, that's not judgment. That's not saying it's bad. That's just my taste. It is what it is. So, Star Trek Lieutenant Riley or Star Trek Boylan Barbers. Oh gosh, Lieutenant Riley. He's a character. He's only in 2 episodes, but in both of them, he's a hoot. Especially when in Lieutenant Riley, he's just ranting about women's rights on the bridge of the Enterprise, and what in, I think, The Naked Time is the episode that's in. So I do have some Star Trek pajamas. I do have a onesie Star Trek pajamas that's this uniform, but blue, in the blue medical uniform, science uniform, as opposed to the red. So I do have a Star Trek onesie, which is kind of fun. Also, this is kind of itchy. I will admit. This TNG uniform is a little bit itchy, especially around the collar. Though I've always been kind of sensitive to that because, yay, autism spectrum. People on the spectrum tend to be very, what's the word? Sensitive, skin sensitive to touch and things like that. And I've always been since I was a kid. I always had to have the tags cut off and things like that. I'm not saying that you have to be on the autism spectrum to feel that way, but I do know it's a recurring thing for people on the spectrum. Sorry, I'm just checking my... I just got a bunch of text, so I just want to make sure that was good. Oh, thank you so much, Zap Fernandez. I really appreciate this super chat. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks. I really enjoy your content. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm trans and a huge Star Trek dork, and your content makes me feel at home. Well, thank you. I'm really glad that my content's able to do that for you. So sending you love and hearts. I really thank you so much, Zap. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm glad that my content's able to do that for you. You are absolutely wonderful and kind, and I thank you so much for that. That's really meaningful, and I love seeing those sort of things. So thank you. Let's see. Next up, Edward. This is why Riker regularly pulls down his uniform after getting up. They fit too well. Yeah, they do. The what is it? The Picard maneuver. Got to do that Picard maneuver. Let it pull down a little bit. So. The hate for modern Star Trek has existed for as long as Star Trek has existed. Yep. Very much so. I mean, you can find old articles about, like, the Next Generation and people saying, like, this isn't my Star Trek. Who are these new people coming in and ruining the original series with this Picard? Some British bald guy? Ugh, what a jerk. Or you can find it about Deep Space Nine. You can probably find the same sort of, like, forced diversity things that about Deep Space Nine as you see today. It's just been amplified a hell of a lot more and reinforced a hell of a lot more by today because we have the internet. And so the internet rewards people saying even more ridiculous and heightened things, and therefore creates a feedback loop and yada, 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 yada. So I won't lie and say that it is... I do think, having not lived at those times, but I do think that it is worse now just because of what the internet does and how the internet heightens those types of hyperbolic voices. But that element has certainly existed as long as Star Trek has existed, or at least as long as Star Trek spin-offs have existed. But I definitely don't think... I will say it's probably a little bit more heightened nowadays. But it's definitely nothing new overall. There would never be a Klingon on a Starfleet ship in real Star Trek. Yep, exactly, Seal. Agreed. FIFO, Retro Point, hello. Hello, Jessie. Greetings from Argentina. I love Star Trek so much, and I'm proud to have you there to share it. Well, thank you so much. I'm proud to have you here to share it. Thank you so much for joining, and I really appreciate that. So... Yeah, I bet there was some toxic backlash even at the motion picture. Christy says. I probably agree. Oh, yep. Tom Preston. Yeah, there was almost certainly backlash at Janeway being a woman. And you say you remember that, so I'm sure that exists. I'm sure that was a thing. Like I said, it's always been a thing since as long as Star Trek. Sorry, I just got another email. Sorry, I'm in the middle of like job hunting, and I just applied to a dream job that they just started looking at applications on Monday. So I've been like anxiously like rechecking my emails. Like, did I get an email? Am I gonna get that job interview? Come on, let me know. Really appreciate it. Come on. So we'll sort of see. I had a job interview yesterday that I think went really well for a really, really good job, and I'm very excited about. So we'll sort of see how that shakes out. But yeah, I applied to Polygon a few weeks ago, and the deadline for their application was on Sunday. So presumably they'll be. My assumption would be they'll probably start notifying people if they're going to get an interview in the next 2 weeks or so. So fingers crossed on that. I've been like anxious to like, please just give me an email. Just because that's a dream job, and I really would love to get it. In fact, that's part of the reason I do a YouTube channel, is to get a job at places like that. Anyways, it's just all I think about. It's all I've been thinking about. So I should probably not talk about it. Oh, thank you, Seal. I really appreciate that. That is the one that I made the video for. So, yeah, fingers crossed. Blah. Sorry, I shouldn't talk about it too much just because it's been like causing me anxiety. Just because like, if you want a little peek inside where my head's at these days, I very love doing this channel, and I want to do it. I want to do it full time, but I don't know that it just getting like that professional validation of like Polygon contacting me would be amazing. It would also be able to like. Part of the reason that I would love to do a job like that, and why I love doing this job, is I hope that the content that I create shares perspectives that don't normally get talked about, like shares me talking about my anxiety, shares a trans perspective, shares a neurodivergent perspective, or I'm able to try to uplift other people's perspectives as best I can that aren't my own, but maybe don't get heard or talked about. So I just have always wanted a platform. I've always said, like, I want to be the sort of weird, geeky, trans, queer person in a geek space, rather than sort of like the geeky person in like a queer space, because I want to be able to share cool perspectives that these platforms like Polygon, I mean, Polygon is already very queer focused and queer friendly, but like share cool perspectives with these people. And then I also just like being on stage. It's fun. I don't do it to like, I don't do this stuff just to boost my own career, in the sense that like, I want to do a career. I want to be famous. I want to be famous. No, it's like, I just want to do this stuff because it's fun, and because I hope that the stuff that I make actually is saying something meaningful. And if I get to do those two things with my life, would be amazing. And I think I'm doing that on this channel, and it's hard, and sometimes it's being so siloed and doing this all from my own out of my own perspective sometimes gets discouraging. You can easily get burned out, or like, oh, I don't know if I have anything more to say. So it'd just be nice to get that professional validation, and also money. Paying bills is also helpful. But hey, I'm gonna be doing this channel for as long as I can. I'm happy to do it. I love these videos. I love doing this. So don't ever think, even if I mean, I'd have to see what would happen at Polygon. But even if I got the Polygon job, I'd still want to do this channel. I'd have to figure out exactly what that would mean. I'd have to figure out exactly what it would mean for this channel, just because I'm sure there would be some things I couldn't say at that job. But I love doing this, and I will do this for as long as I can. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. And also, there's someone playing very loud music. You can... Dang, my whole room is shaking. Wow. A car alarm's going off. That guy's bass was so loud that a car alarm's going off. Whew. That's, turn down your bass, dude. Anyways. But yeah. So I think that's just where my head is at. I've just been kind of, I guess just to wrap up that thought, and I'll jump back into the chat. And thank you, everybody. Everyone's saying so. I am reading your comments as I've been ranting here. You guys are all like reinforcing, like, and saying wonderful things, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. You are all lovely. And to wrap up my thoughts on what I was just kind of feeling, I don't know. The past like week has been a little bit tough, just because I'm back in LA. As many of you know, I was in New Mexico with family, and I've been back in LA, and I do have my roommate, but I've been fairly a lot more isolated here. And so now being isolated again, and I get a lot of energy being around people, so I've been kind of like losing a little bit of steam and energy, and just sort of anxiously looking for that validation from Polygon. And so I'm just sort of like, I don't know, it would be very meaningful to get that validation, but I'll stop ranting about it, because who knows, maybe someone from Polygon is watching this and like, this girl's ranting about getting this job publicly for so long. We're not going to give her the job. So whatever. If you are out there, Polygon, and you are watching, you're wonderful. And even if you don't give me the job, thank you for making such wonderful content. So anyways, I'll stop talking about it. That's all I'll say on that subject. So anyways, enough about me ranting about job opportunities. Let's talk about other things. And thank you so much, everyone. And again, I said this earlier. Thank you for everything you guys do, and for being kind. Not Polygon, you guys out there in the chat. I do appreciate you guys. It is so cool that there's so many cool, wonderful people. Also, I'm sorry, Cast the Last. You did a super chat, and I totally missed it. And I apologize. Okay, one more. Any company would do well to have you in your unique perspective, whether you're doing videos, writing articles for different sites, and being on podcast orgs would be lucky to have you, not vice versa. Thank you so much, Cass. That actually really means a lot. The hard thing with job, this is a completely separate thing. I'm not going to talk about Polygon too much anymore, but like the thing about job applications, I hate job applications because I am not a bragger. I don't like bragging. I hate bragging about myself. I would much rather like brag about someone else. Like literally, I've been like, again, this is kind of on the Polygon train, but I've been like looking at other people's covers letters that they've sent to Polygon, and my impetus was like to go into everyone's comments. Like if you look in Polygon cover letter, because you have to submit a video cover letter, and so some people have posted theirs that they just recently submitted, and my impetus was like, I wanted to go into the comments like, this is so good, you're so amazing, they shouldn't hire me, they should hire you. And I'm not just saying that just like be kind. It's like that's my impetus. I hate talking about myself. So it's just hard to be a bragger. And so I always hate applications because it's like, I don't know. I make stuff. It's cool. I do cool stuff. Hire me, maybe. I'm sure you do cool things too. So it's just a weird thing. I hate it. I hate it so much. Interviews I'm good at. I like interviews because then I can kind of be weird and funny, and answer direct questions and kind of get reactions from people. But just like ranting about myself, like resumes and cover letters, God, I hate them. They're awful. Totally awful. The worst things in the world. So. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The Analog Magazine comment. I really do appreciate that. Oh, congratulations, Oracle Mom. I heard you just said you got a job offer. Congratulations. I hope it's a job that you really want, but absolutely congratulations, Oracle. That's absolutely amazing, especially right now. Like getting a job offer is chef's kiss. So congratulations on that. Lucy, I saw your Outer Wilds video yesterday where you say it helps with your anxiety. You get the opposite from it. Totally understand. My best friend, he hates outer space stuff in the sense of like when you can get lost. Like the movie Gravity is his worst fear, of being like lost in space, and Outer Wilds certainly allows for that. So I could totally understand, like Outer Wilds worked for my anxiety, but I could totally understand it not working for yours. But it just all speaks to particular stuff. So yeah, it is what it is. So is that a cutout of Dax in the background? Yes, it is. That is Dax creepily hiding over there in the background. She's watching. I haven't touched her. She used to be over here. Woke up one day, she's over there, so I think she's sentient. So keep an eye on her. So also speaking of people who you should support and me talking up people, you should go help out Council of Geeks. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I do I've done some videos with Council of Geeks. He's a wonderful YouTuber. who just mostly stuff on Doctor Who, but not exclusively, touches on all elements of geekdom. And he recently lost his full-time job, like I did a few months ago. So you should totally go check out his channel and help him out as well. He is absolutely a fantastic human being. And like I said, I do a podcast with him called What the Frell. So if you want to support somebody, definitely go support him. I will drop that link right here for you, Lucy. Give him some YouTube loves or some Patreon love, even better, because I know he would definitely appreciate the financial support. But at the very least, give him some love over on his channel. I just posted it in the chat. Council Geeks, absolute wonderful person. Like I said, I do a podcast with him every week, and it's actually very much a highlight of my week to rant about. We rant about Farscape a lot in our podcast. It's a Farscape podcast, so I'd hope we'd be talking about Farscape. So I'd very much recommend you checking out Council of Geeks, so especially right now. And yeah, She-Ra content as well. So you dated a girl who had Trill spots tattooed? That's amazing. That's so cool. I would love that and hate that. I want to get. My hope was I got breast augmentation surgery a few months ago, right before all the pandemic happened, and part of like what I was hoping to do after that would be to get another tattoo, and now I can't because pandemic. But I do as soon as I'm able and it's safe. I do want to get my next tattoo, which is what I'm planning on doing. I think I've talked about this in another live stream, but my next tattoo is I want to get them both on my wrists, and I want it to say I want it to have the like little outlines, like black, just outlines of the ships of I think on this one it would be the NX-01 Enterprise, the Discovery, the TOS, the original series Enterprise, the the Defiant, Voyager, and then the Enterprise E. So like little outline, like tiny, like very, very tiny outlines of all three, those ships, 3 on each wrist. And then it would say on this wrist, and then if you held the wrists together, it would have a rainbow sort of warp trail going through all of them. So it would be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, going through my entire wrist, sort of the pride flag. I debated I might also include the black and brown part of the new pride flag as well for people of color on the pride flag. So I probably will include those as well. So like the modern day pride flag. And then it would say infinite diversity on one wrist, infinite combinations on the other wrist. And that would sort of like be that tattoo. And yeah, no Galaxy class, unfortunately, just because number one, Galaxy class is actually my least favorite ship. Sorry, I know that's going to be controversial for some people, but I don't really like the Galaxy class. Plus even if I did like the Galaxy class, I would like the Enterprise E better. And so I would only, I only have room on my wrist for probably 6 ships in total. So if I had to pick between one next generation ship or the other, it would be the E. Even if I did like the Galaxy class. My favorite ship is, my favorite ship of all of them is this guy right here. So this is my favorite Star Trek ship. I think this one's definitely the best. And my roommate got me, so I have that one. And then my second favorite ship is the Enterprise E, which is way over here. So, my 2 favorite ships. So, got those guys going on my board here. All right. Cool. Enterprise B is a good ship too. I think I have the Enterprise B I got the Enterprise B right here for all of you. So there's that guy. It's also broken a little bit if you notice. If you look closely, this nacelle is a little bit broken. Alas, that's what happens when you move a lot. Your ships sadly get broken quite a bit. So, what are you going to do? Okay, everybody. Well, I think I might be winding down the live stream, so I'll answer a couple more questions. Yes, I am a huge nerd, Wellington. By the way, I didn't say hi, Wellington, earlier. It's good to see you. I think I'm going to wind down this live stream, but I will stay on for another minute or two. So if anyone has any last minute questions or last minute things they want to ask me about, I would definitely agree. Pedro, this is a good one. Would you kindly give me an advice on writing trans characters? My story is set in the Victorian age. Well, I'd have to know the specifics of your story because it would really depend on what the type of trans character is. My advice generally, I mean, unless it's specifically relevant to the story, my biggest advice for writing a trans character is treat them like any other character. Do not make, unless it is the point of the story, in which case you should be consulting a lot of trans people if you're going to write that story. But unless it is the point of the story, honestly, the transness shouldn't come up all that often, unless it is natural for it to. You know, I mean, outside of my YouTube channel, where I do this all the time, but outside of my YouTube channel, I don't bring up that I'm trans in everyday life. Like, I won't bring up that I'm trans in everyday conversation or whatever, but sometimes it'll be relevant to what we're talking about. Like if someone brings up a gender issue or, crossing, boundaries or something, like maybe I'll bring it up. But generally the rule of thumb for trans characters, it doesn't matter if they're trans. It shouldn't. And only bring up transness when it feels natural. Like don't go out of your way to like in the first scene that the trans character shows up, and don't go and say, and then she, he, they, I'll just say they, and then they, and it turns out they were trans, or don't have them like bring up the fact that they're trans in the very first scene that they're in, or even the second scene. Only when it feels natural, and only tell us if it comes up. In fact, even better, if your story does not require to ever reveal that they're trans, don't even reveal it. And I know that that's somewhat controversial because then it can end up with, fortunately to evoke this, like a J.K. Rowling conversation, where it's like she never said that Dumbledore was explicitly gay, and it did come up. But I would just say, like, don't even bring it up unless you absolutely need to. And if you absolutely need to, like don't give overweight to it, don't give underweight to it, I guess is probably the best way. It's a difficult balance. And also, it's okay to screw it up. Like on your first try. I mean, that's the fun part of writing is you write multiple drafts. So write it, share it with a trans friend or something like that, and ask them what they think of it. Share it with multiple trans friends, ideally, and rewrite if you need to. So that would be my advice, I think. So yeah. And there was one other question that I at least wanted to touch upon because I just saw. It was a good question, and then I'll sort of wrap out here. Where was it? Where is it? Someone just asked it. Someone asked, like, what's your advice for... By the way, thank you very much, Wellington, and Christy as well. Love you, Christy. Clayton Berg as well. Thank you so much for your super chats. But someone just said, your advice to... Yeah, Gracie, do you have any advice for closeted trans people? I don't necessarily have any advice, just because every person's journey is different, and I don't know why you're closeted, whether it's just because you're afraid or safety and things like that. And I will say all of those feelings are valid. By the way, you do not need to come out, but if you feel safe, you should come out. But again, that depends on your specific situation. The only thing I will say for sure, and again, I need to know your exact specific situation to be able to talk about it, but the only thing I will say for sure is just know that you are absolutely wonderful no matter what. Whether you come out or not, and I hope you get a chance to come out and that you get a chance to show the world your true self. But if you don't, that's okay. You're still beautiful and wonderful and amazing no matter what. So that's the best advice that I can give. And also seek out some resources as safely as you can, as Keith Henson points out. Try and find some resources as best you can. But again, I need to know a little bit more about your specific situation to give more specific advice. But I think the only thing that I can say for sure is just know that you are absolutely amazing no matter what. And that's where I'll leave things for today. You are all lovely, beautiful, amazing, wonderful. I said that twice, but wonderful people. Thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you all have a wonderful evening. And I hope that you all live long and prosper and have a wonderful, wonderful night.